Atlantic's editor, Jeffrey Goldberg, was accidentally added to a private, high-level chat on the messaging app Signal, which is where military plans were allegedly being discussed. Goldberg said himself that he was added to the discussion after receiving a request from someone named Waltz, referring to Mike Waltz. And when President Trump was asked how he found out that Goldberg was added to the chat, he said it was one of Michael's people on the phone. A staffer had his number on there. President Trump also added that Goldberg's presence in the chat had no impact at all on the specific military operation. But despite that statement, this is still a super booming story. And of course, the editor had to go on and leak the messages, and that has left everyone scrambling. So in this video, we are going to look and take a deeper dive into the situation and see how this leak is a little bit more less significant than you might think, and see how President Trump is able to put a lid on it easily. I want to begin with this clip from Fox News when they originally reported the incident, and take a look at Trump's direct responses towards it. Watch this.
Good morning, guys. That's right. So DNI Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe are the first two who could be grilled by Congress with a hearing today held by the Senate Intelligence Committee regarding worldwide threats. So they are just two among the 18 people included in a group chat on the encrypted messaging service Signal. And Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, says he was accidentally added to the group that discussed war plans against Houthi terror groups. Goldberg sharing these texts showing top U.S. national security officials discussing plans to carry out strikes in Yemen earlier this month, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who is calling out the report. Listen to this.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
Goldberg saying he was invited into the chat by President Trump's national security advisor and that there was highly sensitive military information in those messages.
I was invited a couple of weeks ago to connect with Michael Waltz, the national security advisor. That didn't strike me as particularly strange, given my job and his job. I was shared on a text in this group from somebody purporting to be Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. And this text contained operational military information.
Trump says he was not aware about the situation. Listen.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
The White House says President Trump is standing by his team as the National Security Council confirms that the message thread reported appears to be authentic. They are now investigating how the journalist's number was added to that chain.
One of the people who works directly with Trump and his team said that there were no messages that were sent in that chat that were considering talking about any type of war plans at all. He also had called the reporter, Jeff Goldberg, that he was a deceitful liar who just peddles and meddles in garbage, basically calling him untrustworthy and that we can't listen to anything he's coming out saying. The next clip then is Trump. Trump is speaking how he had no clue about any of it. This is his first time hearing of it and he doesn't know what it is. He said that nothing happened and nothing was affected. Then it jumps back to the Fox reporter and she said that they're investigating and trying to find out exactly how did his number get added to the message thread. I also want to add that clip of President Trump that was released an hour after the messages were apparently leaked and released. So there is probably a good chance that President Trump was not aware of the text thread and the message leak. And to hit on what Jeffrey Goldberg said about war plans being in the messages weren't talking anything about war plans. All of the text messages that they saw that were released, it was more generalized. Everything was kind of vague. Nothing that any enemy forces could use and take to try to get an upper hand on the United States. None of that was shown in the messages. And if he did have a thread of that he didn't post, good. We're glad you didn't post it. Really, all he should have done was alerted the correct authorities and kept it at that. Moving on, I want to take a look at this CNN clip of Alex Marquardt speaking and breaking down the situation. Watch this.
Jaws are on the floor across Washington, across the national security space right now, because here you have a reporter who was included in the deliberations over one of the biggest national security events this year, the bombing of the Houthis that started on March 15th. And Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, was privy to the details days ahead of time. What happened is that it appears that Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, added him to a group conversation on Signal, this encrypted app, so presumably these other officials felt like what they were saying was safe. Why he was added, we still don't know. That is the first of a long list of questions, but others on this group chain included the CIA director, the secretaries of defense, of state, the director of national intelligence, and the list goes on. So in the days ahead of this bombing of Yemen, there are these conversations about whether it should happen. J.D. Vance, the vice president, actually pushed back, saying it ran counter to other positions that the president had taken on Europe, but he deferred to the others, and they decided to go ahead with this bombing of the Houthis, which started, this latest campaign started, it's been going on for quite some time, on March 15th. 2 hours before the first bombs dropped, an update was sent by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, to the others, in which it had stunning detail about, Jeffrey Goldberg reports, the forthcoming strikes, the information about targets, the weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and the attack sequencing. And
so from that entire CNN clip, we can pretty much get a good idea of exactly what happened. Goldberg was added to the Signal text thread before whatever happened. Meaning, before the bombing happened, he didn't exactly truly understand everything he was reading. But that was until up about 2 hours later, the bombing happened. And then after that, what he actually leaked was the messages of celebration, of the members and officials congratulating and being proud of having a successful hit. That is what he leaked. And he only did that to show that he had proof that he was actually in that conversation. He was showing the genuine and authentic text messages of the reaction of what they had did. Now, he probably did not have to do that, but we can only be happy that he didn't show the actual sensitive information. And the White House and Trump's administration should be kind of grateful that it was an Atlantic reporter and editor-in-chief who was added instead of someone else, someone who might have a grudge against the U.S. or would have took that information and sold it to enemies. Because if so, that bombing could have been stopped and something else terrible could have happened. We don't know what the outcome could have been if there was a different person in that chat besides Goldberg. There needs to be systems and people who are right there involved, checking who's there and making sure everything is safe and protected. With that said, let's read this tweet from Caroline Levitt. In the tweet, she posted a response back to the situation of the leak. It reads, Jeffrey Goldberg is well known for his sensationalist spin. Here are the facts about his latest story. Number 1, no war plans were discussed. Number 2, no classified material was sent to the thread. Number 3, the White House Counsel Office has provided guidance on a number of different platforms for President Trump's top officials to communicate as safely and efficiently as possible. As the National Security Council stated, the White House is looking into how Goldberg's number was inadvertently added to the thread. Thanks to the strong and decisive leadership of President Trump and everyone in the group, the Houthi strikes were successful and effective. Terrorists were killed, and that's what matters most to President Trump. So reading that tweet from Caroline Levitt, she basically came out to clear the air. This is a situation that the only people who know the truth are the ones involved, and they will literally try their hardest to discredit the other side. Trump administration will call Goldberg a liar, and Goldberg will call them a liar. It's nothing new that we haven't seen before. But regardless from the tweet, we do see that the White House is investigating, so we can say that they are holding themselves accountable. Before I close out, I want to take a look at this statement from the Associated Press, where President Trump did acknowledge the leak. Trump on Tuesday, in a brief interview with NBC News' Garrett Hawk, downplayed the incident as the only glitch in 2 months of his administration, and it turned out not to be a serious one. And based on that statement, we can only wait for the interview to come out. And that is what I believe. The story of the war plans being leaked will finally die down. But I will say though, from this point forward, I'm sure President Trump and his administration will tighten up on their security when it comes to serious and important matters. So let me know what you think about all of this. Do you think Jeffrey Goldberg did actually see a lot of sensitive information regarding war plans? Do you feel like he's just pulling it out and using the accident to help sensationalize him and his magazine and articles? I want to hear your thoughts and let me know down below in the comments. And I'll see you next time on KW Lawholic.